This is my 16.3 review of my coaching session that I completed at Carden Primary School. The first thing we've got here is the aim and objectives of the session. My session aim was to improve accuracy when throwing, because I did striking and fielding. To improve accuracy when batting, improve hand-eye coordination when catching, and the objectives was to practice the batting techniques, the practice throwing at a distance and accurately, and practice catching during the fielding section of the rounders game. The first thing I've got here is a risk assessment of my session, just in case all sessions need this. So I've got a few hazards here. Uneven ground is one of them. And just to avoid this is just ensuring they have the correct footwear. And if someone does trip, making sure there's a first aid box on site just in case anyone needs that. Bats, those are a hazard. Balls as well would be another hazard because rounders balls can be pretty tough. So if someone gets hit with one of those, that can be a risk. A trip hazard of all the equipment. We had a lot of cones out in our session, so making sure to complete certain activities away from the cones to ensure that nobody else gets hurt or trips on them. Dehydration is also another one that I haven't actually listed here, but because when we completed our session it was quite hot, it was in the sun, there wasn't very much shade, so we just made sure that we gave them enough water breaks so that it didn't become too lethargic and very dehydrated. And sunburn as well because it was sunny, making sure that they had enough breaks and that everyone was dressed correctly and everyone had sun cream. The warm-up we did was just a Stuck in the Mud because they were year 5, so everybody should know how to play this. No, they were year 4, sorry. And this is what we did for our warm-up. The other section of our warm-up was to do some dynamic stretches and a few static stretches, mostly dynamic, just to warm the body up and get them ready, and just to avoid injury. And then we went into our main activity, which is called chain fielding. This just helps them with their accuracy in throwing and catching simultaneously, because the participants would have to move into position to catch the ball, and they'd have to throw it a certain distance to the next person, and this would go around in, a chain. We then moved on to our second activity, which was cone batting. So we had to get the group into pairs for this. There was a 1-3, but we just worked around that and made it work. So we had one person at a cone, and then they had to hit the ball to the person who did not have the bat, and then the person had to catch it, throw it back to them, and so forth. And then batting to fielders. This time the fielders would start with the ball and throw it. So person A, the fielder, would throw it to person B who has the bat. The batters would have to hit it, and then person A would attempt to try and catch it. This works on accuracy for person A with the throwing, and also works on accuracy with person B with the batting and hand-eye coordination as well. And then they'd swap, and it would work on all three things at once. And the last main activity we did was a conditioned game. So we went into rounders for striking and fielding. This is just a generic game. I think everyone really knows how to play this. And we started off with just throwing the ball instead of using a bat. And then for those who found that quite easy, moved on to a tennis racket, and then moved on to a rounders bat. So that progression was there, and adaptations as well for those who may have found it a bit harder. And then for the cool down we did just a light jog, just making everyone moving, changing direction when we told them to, and then they would slow down into walk just to bring the body down gradually, and then just into a few stretches just to loosen up their body, and then we just laid them down at the end, and then we did a sort of debrief. We asked them how the session was, how they felt about it, and if they enjoyed it forth. Again, so we looked at that, the review. I think that our session aims, I think they were reachable. I think we reached most of them because I could see improvements in most of the participants, that their accuracy definitely improved. And we practiced all three of the session objectives. I would say that the three main strengths for me as a coach during my session was organisation, motivation, and praise. For the organisation, we had our session plan that I just previously showed you. And everything that we did, it went smoothly. We set it out we actually before the kids had come out, just so we knew where everything was. I think it flowed quite well between different activities. Motivation, I think that most of them were quite competitive, so we threw a lot of competitive elements in there, which kept them motivated. We kept it fun. It was quite light-hearted. It wasn't too intense for them, and then competition at the end between the two teams helped keep that motivation there, just so that they can improve. And praise as well. This is something that I would give each person who actually deserved it each time they did something good. Um, for the area of improvements, I think my communication could have been slightly better. So for the communication that I'm talking about at the moment is the instructions on what to do. I think I could have instructed them more and directed them more and been more. Um, I could have been a bit more authoritative, I think, and just for this, I would just give more instructions throughout the session to the participants, just to make sure that they're not confused. Um, and I think it would just help it just flow a little bit better, so they knew what to do, they'd move into it, and then we could just get going rather than having to explain things to them again and again. The second area of improvement is another communications, which is introductions and engaging with them. I think at the beginning of the session, I wasn't as engaged as I was near the end of the session. I think it was just I got used to it, and I became more confident. But if I had started confidently at the beginning, I think it would have allowed um, the kids to feel a bit more comfortable, and then feel a bit more engaged and like I was actually, wanting to be there. And for the third thing, is technical instructions. So I didn't really, if someone had done something wrong, I didn't really tell them how to do it correctly. I just sort of let them get on with it. And I think for a next time would be actually tell them and give them improvements on how to do certain things. Um, and just so that they know how to complete the activity. Um, the second one I've got here. And then and that is everything. That is my review of my session.